I want to let everybody know that we are still 100% committed to solving this crime. There's a lot of information to sort through, and the information keeps coming in. And not all of the information is relevant, but you don't know if a tip is valid until you take the time to examine that tip and see how it relates to other information that you might have. We have teams in Moscow, Salt Lake City, and in Virginia, as well as other locations across the country. And we're prepared to do interviews and follow up on information at any point, anywhere. The ISP and FBI investigators along.
Hey guys, so if you listen to the entire broadcast, that wasn't really the part of the clip I wanted to play. There's a part earlier on, I think, where he talks about just how much they are doing, and doesn't it inspire confidence? Like, when you've heard the whole thing, do you feel like law enforcement don't have any idea what's going on, or do you feel like they have so much information that it's really just the process of systematically going through that information? Is it a question that they don't have information, or that they have so much that that's what they're doing, they're working through the information? What sort of sense have you guys got? So the other thing I wanted to draw your attention to is this particular comment. Let's bring it up here, from the University of Idaho Murders case discussion. But here you actually have Olivia, I guess, saying, "Hi, Steve's daughter, Kaylee's sister here. Hate to make this post, but unfortunately this reporter got bad information. We are also working with our lawyer to get this removed, but wanted to let you know from the source, this information was not given to anyone at Fox from our family." So this is really apparently how they feel about this particular article that sort of just came out recently. This one dealing with a sadistic male, this particular article. Are you gonna refresh? So it seems like they are not approving this message, kind of thing, right? And I did mention that the Gonsalves family seem to have been gone quite quiet of late, and this seems to have broken with that, or has it or hasn't it? Now, before we deal with this, I want to deal with something else that has just come out. Idaho murder victims hands bagged at scene to preserve possible evidence. That's based on what the coroner said. And that is something that's quite typical in crime scenes. I think we even had it with the John Benet Ramsey case. We also had it with the Chris Watts case. The brown paper bags are put over the hands to prevent contamination. And so they are just really confirming that that did take place. And what that might be indicative of is if there was a struggle, and if there's defensive wounds, you would imagine there was a struggle. And if there were defensive wounds, could the victims have gotten the DNA under their fingernails of the victim? I think there's a chance of that. It depends for how long the victim was able to scuffle with the perpetrator. It also depends on the perpetrator's clothing. Bear in mind, it's winter time. It's winter, so the perpetrator is probably wearing a lot more than he usually does. So is everybody else. The people sleeping would be wearing relatively less, but the perpetrator might have arrived there wearing gloves, socks, boots, everything. And the only thing that might be exposed could be his face or his neck, possibly his hand, possibly not. But anyway, the other thing that they could recover under the fingernails could be things like clothing fibers, something that would be indicative of the sort of clothing that they need to be looking for, right? And we know that that played a big role in the Delphi case, right? So the other thing that I wanted to bring up is the HVAC worker HVAC refers to heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Have any of you guys seen this this video from News Nation? It came up about 4 days ago. Ashley Banfield asked, why was an HVAC contractor at the crime scene? So I'll just play that very briefly, if I can just move it over.
Tonight. The simple question is this. Sure, seeing an HVAC repair person showing up underneath crime tape and going into an active crime scene raises a lot of eyebrows. Could it be as simple as they needed to just keep the heat on, or could an investigator actually seek the professional assistance of somebody who knows air ducts and air systems?
I think that's really the two ends of the spectrum, isn't it, Ashley? It's possible that this could be as benign as the heating went out on the building and they needed to get that thing going again. Or it could be more complex. It could be that they are calling in professionals to assist the crime scene investigators in collecting filters and any evidence they could get from the filtration system of.
So what do you think he's referring to when he talks about getting evidence from the filtration system, right? In the, I guess, the air conditioner, the heating ducts, whatever. Well, doesn't that refer to possible things like clothing fibers? It could be touch DNA. I'm not sure about that, but anyway. So someone asked for a link to the content that I've been showing. Well, there is a link to the video I've just played. There is a link to Alvia's statement. This is a link to the press conference. I'm going to put that in a moment. And what else is there? This is the link to the hands being bagged from Fox News. And finally, this is the link to what the father said about big open wounds. Now, I've got to say, I, to some extent, feel like I dispute the way the father, Katie's father, is talking about that. I don't know what you guys think, because the coroner, when she was interviewed, especially by Ashley Banfield, said that there wasn't slashing wounds, that there were, I think she said puncture wounds. I'm going to play a little piece out of where the coroner speaks.
A sharp object, so
stabbings.
So I don't know if you caught that. She was asked, I guess, what was the murder weapon, and she says, well, as per the press statement, there was a sharp object. So she's not even saying knife, just sharp object. Of course, it was later established that it was a fixed blade Rambo type knife with a serrated edge.
yeah, we'll know more after the autopsies tomorrow.
And do you believe these could be like a murder-suicide? Or
No, they're 4 homicides.
4 homicides. Okay. And when it comes to doing the investigation post-autopsy, that falls on you, correct?
Yes, it's my job to determine them.
I'm sorry, the audio is really soft, but that's the way it is. She's also confirmed that it is definitely 4 homicides, not homicide murder. Homicide suicide.
So do you have any idea how long it could take, if this were relevant, to get any type of results back on that?
Well, the toxicology reports, right, they usually take 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes longer. But they might, I don't think they're going to be relevant in the actual manner or cause of death.
And do we know how long between the time of death and when police found them, approximately?
No, I don't know for sure.
Do we have like any, like, could it have been hours? Could it have been?
So what made me quite angry listening to this was she was alerted to the crime at around about noon, she says. I'll also put a link to this in chat so you guys can check it out yourselves. But I think she said she only arrived there at 5 p.m. or something like that. And what bothers me with that is part of what a coroner needs to do is assess time of death. And time of death in this case is very important. Was it 3 o'clock or was it 4 o'clock in the morning? Was it just before 3? Was it, what time was it? At this point, I think we surmise that it's just before 4. That's the time that we think it could have taken place. What else can I tell you? So it makes me quite angry because although I think she was told not to come to the scene earlier, I think she should have been summoned to the scene immediately and just find out or just get a sample in order to assess time of death. I think there is a concern that, well, the police are investigating and they need to do their work, and you can't have too much staff and crew in place. But the fact that she only arrived there at 5 o'clock, which is potentially 5 hours later, just seems an unnecessary waste of time, as far as I'm concerned. What is also interesting with what she says there is toxicology can take 4 to 6 weeks. In the Anne Hirsch case, I think it took less than that. But on the other hand, I think they were just really testing for certain things, blood alcohol and other things. But it could take 4 to 6 weeks. And if it's 6 weeks, then it could be a situation that is really what law enforcement are waiting for. They're waiting 2 more weeks because we're at the 4-week mark now. Maybe up to 2 more weeks, which would put us up at Christmas for the return of the toxicology, and that would complete the narrative in terms of just how intoxicated were these kids, and to what extent would that cause them not to wake up, or conversely, if they weren't intoxicated really at all, or not very intoxicated, then would they have been more likely to have woken up? So bear in mind, the police have got to put together a scenario that has got to make sense. And part of that scenario is, were the defensive wounds because they were aroused by the attack itself, or could they have been aroused by something else? The toxicology is going to give an idea of whether how much they were in a state to respond to an attack, not just one of them, but also all 4 of them. So collectively, what sort of state were they in? And it also may give an indication, was something put into their food or drink that could have compromised them in some way? Probably not, but it's probably important to assess that as well. I think another thing that could determine time of death is if they ate that carbonara, then the point in the digestive tract where that carbonara stopped will help to assess time of death. The other important reason why time of death is important is you want to look at the decay of the blood alcohol, and 1 or 2 hours can make a big difference in the blood alcohol level that you're dealing with. Someone says, I don't think there's a difference. So is there anything else I wanted to share with you guys? So clothing fibers could be really important. I did want to take you guys through what the father of the slain victim said and other information. But unfortunately, I've got some bad news for you. The power is scheduled to go out here in about 4 minutes. So someone actually left a comment saying, I need to research power outages in South Africa. And so I quickly looked at my phone. The power is supposed to go out here in 4 minutes. So bad luck. I actually thought I had another 2 hours that I'd be able to talk to you. But unfortunately, this is going to be just a very quick update, a quick recap on what has been in the news. Let's just play a little bit more from that press conference, because I must say I got a sense of confidence that things were going quite well. So let's play a little bit earlier.
Because we believe through our investigation that car was in the area during the time of the murders. And we also believe that the occupant or occupants may have seen something. They may not know they have seen something. So we specifically want to talk to them, and we want to know who they are and what they might know or might be able to contribute to the investigation.
So I think what's really interesting with that is in a way a acknowledgement that someone the driver of that car or passengers of that car still haven't come forward. Isn't that quite suspicious? Right? Isn't that quite suspicious that they have made it very clear we're looking for the driver of a particular vehicle, and that so far that person hasn't come forward, right? I think that that vehicle is narrowing down the search in terms of suspects as well. And I think in terms of that can speed up the pace of this investigation very much. Do you guys agree?
Over the weekend, investigators have sorted through and prioritized numerous tips. Some are tips that came in earlier and we've been working on. Other tips are new and are relevant. It's overwhelming sometimes with the amount of information that comes in on these tip lines. So our analysts have spent hours.
So when he says that, it's overwhelming the amount of information. Do you really get a sense of that you have a lack of confidence? They're certainly not dealing with, they don't have much information. They've got a huge amount of information and they're sifting through that, and who knows what the quality is that is coming through. Okay, I've got about a minute left to talk to you guys.
Sorting through and trying to come up with the most relevant tips first for the investigators to follow up on. They have re-interviewed some of the folks we've interviewed earlier in this investigation to clarify information. Sometimes when new information comes forward, the people that we've spoken to.
So skipping a little bit ahead, I really need to wrap up very quickly before the lights literally go out. It's right at the end of this article where it's quoted where they say, where is it? I feel the hairs going back on the back of my neck. They say, police said, it is what we must do to preserve the integrity of the investigation. We want more than an arrest, right? Let's pull that up there. We want more than an arrest. We want justice. It takes time to do it right. It takes time to do it right. So what they seem to be saying there, thanks a lot, Jessica. Thanks a lot for that. What they seem to be saying there is that they could easily make an arrest, but what they want to do is secure a conviction. They want to win this case. They want to prosecute successfully. I'm not going to take it further than that. I'm going to bid you guys adieu. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you found this informative and useful, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.